I don't think I've seen quite this much hype around an Epic Encounter box, but maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. This is Nest of the Dinosaur in this case being a double-headed Tyrannosaurus Rex. And yes, I did check, and the T-Rex was actually a proper dinosaur. Many thanks to Steamforged Games for sending it to us to review. Last month, we reviewed the Sand and Stone set from WizKids, which featured several dinosaurs and related not quite dinosaurs, and those seem to get a lot of attention in the comments section. Who knew that so many of us nerds liked dinosaurs so much? So today we are going to see what interesting gameplay Steamforged Games and Richard August have for us here with this truly epic mini as we enter the Nest of the Dinosaur. This month we are giving away free spells. Yes, that is right. With our partner Hit Point Press, we are giving away spells that you can use with our animated Spellcraft decks. Those cards feature unique spell art on one side and have a blank back for you to write in your own spells. But who wants to come up with your own spells when we have our team of highly trained goblins here to make them for you? And by team of highly trained goblins, I mean Grady, any award-winning Paizo freelancer Grady. What's this if not a tea ceremony, and one featuring some furry little friends? If you cast this spell, which we call Diplomatie, you can create an Alice in Wonderland style dinner table for you, the person you're treating with, and some animal companions who will be able to participate in the conversation. This can be your chance to talk your way out of a tricky situation, or just a time to take a break and share some boba with your pet squirrel. Get your decks of animated spells and conditions and townsfolk and illusions and things over at animatedspells.com and get your free spells over at gallantgoblin.com. And here is your dinosaur. As always, the boss boxes don't really give you a pre-written story to tell, but give you lots of ingredients so that you can cook up your own story, or a framework, or just a monster that suits your table. They give you some really creative options about the origins of the dino, its capabilities, its connection to the lizard folk, whose box we reviewed recently, and why the PCs may be encountering it. And some of these story hooks are kind of wild. For example, the Dragon King settles on the roof of the Parliament building and calmly incinerates 3 senators. He promises to do the same every day until the twin heads of the dino who took a bite out of his right wing are delivered to him. The boxes are also designed to slot into other pre-written adventures to enhance what might otherwise be a relatively mundane boss battle. Now, the boxes like the Red Dragon and the Frost Giant are pretty easy to find in most adventures. A 2-headed dinosaur maybe less so. Though running this in Tomb of Annihilation and Dungeon of the Mad Mage would make a lot of sense. You can run anything in Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Other places that come to mind are Eberron Rising from the Last War, and somewhere along the Menagerie Coast in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Also, I think a double-headed dino would work really well in several Pathfinder adventures, including the Quest for the Frozen Flame, Strength of Thousands, and the Outlaws of Alkenstar, although of course you'll have to alter up some of the gameplay elements for those. You can find a Pathfinder level 10 Tyrannosaurus stat block in Bestiary 1. The mini itself is as detailed as you would expect by now from an Epic Encounters mini. Outside of the 2 heads, it's pretty naturalistic. I'm curious to see what the painters out there will do with it. The more natural paint jobs always look amazing, but sometimes folks bring some surprising takes to the painting table, and I would love to see those too. If you do paint it up, please come post your results on our Discord channel. Here's the map of the dinosaur's nest, which is part of a small plateau. As always, the map is 16 by 23 inches and double-sided. And just like with the prior boss boxes, the maps contain the same elements in a different arrangement on each side. I mentioned in our last Epic Encounters box that the isometric rather than directly overhead perspective gives these maps a great sense of relative elevation at the expense of one side of the table having to view the map from an upside-down perspective. And I think that plays strongly here. There is something about seeing these maps here with these caverns and hills and elevations upside down that makes my brain hurt a little bit. But let's talk about the map and the gameplay features that the book lays out for us. As always, there are map-wide effects that you can pick and choose between for your adventure, including high winds, which interfere with ranged attacks, or a river of blood that might impede travel, and the effects of vertigo from being too close to an edge. They also provide you with some good narrative descriptions of the scene to help settle the scene into the senses of your players, while also outlining how the dinosaur uses the terrain to its advantage. There are also piles of boulders that might get dislodged, a surprisingly deep pool of freezing cold water that can knock a character out of a fight for a while, and there's a pile of meat that the dino is keeping for its young to munch on. Yes, there are also baby dinosaurs, which will try to rip the meat off of your character's bones, though sadly they only get 4 tokens instead of actual minis. It would be interesting to see the Epic Encounters lines, including a couple of related minis, in their boss boxes at some point. I say it every time, but the real magic in the box comes from the booklet, which helps you run a more satisfying, surprising, and of course, cinematic boss fight than you normally get in 5e. 5e stat blocks are, for the most part, quite simple and limiting. If we look at the T-Rex stat block in the 5e basic rules, on your turn, your dino will move, bite, and swing its tail. It's predictable, exploitable, and oftentimes pretty boring. Now, the stat blocks in the back of the Epic Encounters book are based on these basic rule stat blocks, with a few additions given the dino's extra head. But the booklet teaches you how to go beyond the stat block to keep the battle more unpredictable and dynamic. These abilities aren't designed to be used all the time, or even more than once in each battle, but they give you a lot of fun options. You get a terrifying roar, a snack break to tear some meat off of that meat pile for some extra energy, a surprise tail sweep against anyone standing behind you, and a charge attack. And the dino can also use this layer to its advantage by summoning some lizardfolk allies, or its own babies, or triggering an avalanche, or flinging a character across the map, or using both of its heads to rend a character apart, or just gulp a character down the old gullet. The book does a good job of laying out these options with flavor text that you can use, and with DM tips about when the dino would use these abilities and why. There's a lot more in here too, like multiple stat blocks to use this encounter at different tiers of play, loot options, lore information, a turn-by-turn strategy guide for the dino, and more. If I'm looking at things that could improve, I might suggest more differentiation between the maps that might really change up the gameplay between using each map. As it is, I don't think the 2 maps would make for significantly different encounters. I'd also like to see some custom loot from the dinosaur, and maybe the opportunity to raise one of the young dinos after your party inevitably murders its mother like the party of lawful good characters that they are. I'd like to see them just take a few more chances with these boxes. So let me know what you think about the set down below. Nest of the Dinosaur is available now for between $35 and $50. We'll have some purchase links right down below me too. The next sets are ones that were teased to us back at Gen Con last year. If you watched that interview, which I will link up there in the eye. Camp of the Bandit Twins and Cave of the Manticore. I've been waiting for a bandit set since the beginning, and I bet this one will pair well with this one. Those 2 are expected in August, but we'll give you the full rundown as soon as we can get our little grubby little goblin paws on them. In the meantime, don't forget to get your free spell over at gallantgoblin.com and pick up your animated spell decks over at the Hit Point Press store at animatedspells.com. If you'd like to pick yourself up a cuddly little kobold who won't try to rend you in half, you can adopt one at heroplush.com. And you can find me on social media at one of these fine sites over here. Until next time, stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.